What's up? What's up? It's your boy Vinny Dangerous. I am back. Last stream of 2023, man. Let's get it. Yeah, I love that beat. Like it's one of my favorite beats that I've made, but I get kind of sick of it looping the way it does. Um, but what's up? I updated my OBS so I can see the chat a little bit better now. So I'm not gonna have to look. I'm not gonna have to look at my phone as much to catch the YouTube. Let me. Is it just my phone or am I super light? I mean dark. Yeah, this. Nah, that feels too bright. Let me adjust that. Yeah, yeah. That's a nice little middle ground. Let me see what it look like on YouTube. Yeah, yeah, that works. That works. But yo, what's good? What's good? Yeah, man. I'm gonna try not to keep this one too long, but we talking about my favorite topic of the year, music, and actually music that I like. Last week we talked about the albums that I was looking forward to that did not meet my expectations as a fan, as a listener. Now we're gonna talk about albums that surprisingly, when I was putting my list together, there were a lot of albums that I was not really anticipating or I just kind of came across at random and ended up being like some of my favorite listens all year. So yeah, like, you know, I guess before we get started, let me, while I give it a few minutes, see if anybody else is gonna pop into the stream. So I guess I could just kind of lay down the obvious rules whenever you put together these kind of lists. First and foremost, this is just my opinion. This is what I personally felt were my favorite albums of the year. So, if your favorite album isn't on my list, or if something that I might have ranked a little bit higher, a little bit lower than you think it should be, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat how you feel. If there were some albums I missed, because obviously I'm not gonna be able to listen to everything that came out when it came out. And with the case of some of these albums on this list that I did put together, some of them basically took over my entire life for a few months. So I didn't even get like anything else that came out like before or right after that. I probably didn't get to just because I was fucking with what I was fucking with. I didn't know how I was gonna put this together, so I just ended up using the tier list site, but just did it as like a ranking thing. Usually, I like this is my first year doing a live stream, so typically when I would do pre-recorded videos, I would just have it like edited in, like the album cover edited in, and I would just talk about what I liked about it, what I didn't like, and the tier list for. Wait a minute. Why does this say? Hold on, I'm gonna have to look at something because let me check this real quick. Because this is saying, is this a title right? Wow. You know what? You know what it is, and I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna change it later. I don't know. Can I change it now? I'm gonna go to my YouTube page real quick because I just realized that it's titled wrong, and I put it together. And this is the thing. I thought I was doing well. Like I thought I was like on top of my game today. But what happened was I put it together. You know what? Let me see if I can do it because they ain't gonna let me do it through my phone. Yeah, that's better. That works. because I don't want to show off my screen. I think I'm gonna do that whenever I pull up the album and shit. It's not really that big of a deal, but I might just do that just in case. Um, so one of the albums, right, that's not gonna be on here. I'm gonna tell you that right now. But I really enjoyed was the new Boz record. It literally just came out. Yeah, I changed the caption and everything. I just did not change the title, like when on OBS and shit. I just didn't change the title of the stream, but I changed everything else. Thumbnail, description, all that shit. I changed everything but the fucking title. All right. I wonder what does it say now? Like it probably still says the same shit. Let me see. Yeah, it says it on my OBS. It's the same shit. I can see if it changes on the channel. Okay, it did change it on YouTube, so I'm gonna just leave it where it is right now. But yeah, so the Boz album is really dope, right? Especially the song "Home Alone" with J. Cole. Really, really loved that song, and the album from top to bottom. There's like maybe one or two tracks that are like not a skip, but just I'm probably not listening to them after after that initial listen. But like it literally came out at the time of this stream. It um, came out like 3 days ago or 2 days ago. I, I can't really put anything that came out in December on this list. I said the same thing on my last stream, like with the Nicki album, because it had just dropped right before my most disappointing albums of 2023 tier list. But like I can't say if I like it or dislike it after just like a few days of listening to it. So the Boz album is just gonna have to be omitted. Anything else that came out in December is just gonna have to be omitted. If I haven't been able to listen to it for at least a month, I can't really give you an honest opinion on it. And like ranking it and comparing it to albums I might have had like majority of the year to listen to and really like form an opinion. So I don't want to include anything that just like recently came out. But I don't know that like because right now I can't even tell you if I would even put that album on the list or not. But it was definitely a dope first couple listens. I've only had like a couple times to listen to it. Like putting this list together was a little bit more difficult than I thought because um, for hip hop especially, but just like music in general, it just kind of felt very low key. But that's really more of a mainstream issue because there's a lot of albums, like pretty much almost everything that I got on this list was stuff that I found at random that I'm pretty sure nobody is talking about, except with a few exceptions, of course. There's some albums that like are going to be on everybody's. I mean, so far everybody's top albums of the year lists. I've seen a few of these on here, but there's a lot of them that nobody is really talking about that I just came across randomly. And a lot of the albums that I was disappointed in were the ones that were like super hyped up, were just like had these big campaigns or like just the talk of the town when hip hop didn't have a number one album like midway through the year. These were the albums that everybody thought was going to change that, and they just didn't leave that much of an impression on me. So it's gonna be an interesting list. I might put y'all on to some shit that y'all didn't even know came out. Maybe some artists y'all didn't even listen to. One thing, like I was thinking about this the other day because the more, this whole Spotify thing, right? Like I talked about this, I think I talked about this a few streams ago, but initially I was pissed about the whole Spotify thing, right? But it kind of freed me up a little bit, like mentally. It felt like it freed me from like just this idea of how important streams are and shit. So, and I've been like, looking at other platforms to primarily focus like my music and stuff on. And Bandcamp has been the biggest one. And like listening to the music on Bandcamp, it's just like, wow, there's a lot of this stuff just would not have been on my radar if I was just listening to Spotify. I was just listening to Tidal. I was just listening to Apple Music. Like, not that it's not there, because a lot of those albums are still on those streaming platforms, but like they're not being highlighted. They're not being spotlighted. It's usually the biggest names that are getting pushed to the forefront or are associated with those big names, like maybe on the same label, maybe they've collabed a lot, shit like that. And so I'm like, man. So it's just one of those examples, and a lot of these albums on here I see I've saw them at random on Tidal or on YouTube or something like that, and I see them also on Bandcamp, and they're getting a lot of love there. So I'm like, yo, this might be where I need to be, just based on my musical taste and shit like that. The only thing Bandcamp needs to do, and I posted this earlier and tagged them in it. I was like, the only thing y'all need to do is just be able to allow me to put like share it to my story on Instagram or something like that, or like when I share it to like something like Threads or Facebook or whatever, like it just needs to look a little cleaner. I don't really know how to describe it, but it doesn't look as like convenient and appealing as if I was to share something I'm listening to on Tidal, I'm listening to on YouTube or Spotify. You know what I'm saying? Like if anybody that's done that, and I do that like pretty much every day, whenever I'm listening to something that I think like needs to be highlighted or whatever, like I always post it to my story on IG, and that option is not on Bandcamp. So it's just those little things that I feel like could really help the platform. But like just as an artist and as a listener, like I really enjoy Bandcamp more than I do Tidal, more than I do Spotify, like which were the other places that I listen to music. And YouTube is just terrible because of the fucking ads. I mean, I know you could you could get YouTube Premium, which I'm thinking about switching, just cutting off Tidal and just doing that, since I primarily watch everything on YouTube, as well as like listen to music and watch music videos and shit. So I'm thinking about it. I know that option is there, but man, the ads used to be tolerable, but now like it's getting bad. Like they just changed it to where now like especially because I notice it on like bigger videos that have like millions of views, they'll put like three or four ads in a row, but they give you like a little timer in the corner where usually that timer was like 5-10 seconds, and then you can skip it. Or if it's an unskippable ad, like they'll let you know you can't skip this one. Now it's a timer where it's like you have to watch a certain number of ads before you can skip it, or it's just gonna keep playing ads. Like I said 4 because yesterday I couldn't find a remote, so I was able to like look and count as I was looking for the remote, and it was like 4 ads in a row before I could finally skip it. Like by the 4th ad, I was able to skip it. So yeah, like I'm thinking about shutting everything down, just listening to Bandcamp, and like supporting the artist, especially if they end up on your top 10 list or your top 20 list of albums. Like I've just thrown them some money, whether it's $5-10, you buy a CD or you just buy a download. Like, yo, support these artists for real. Like I won't be looking for y'all to support me, but I'm also supporting the artists that I listen to. Like I done bought a couple albums, since like I started really paying attention to Bandcamp, just because like yo, this shit is dope. Like I want you to keep going. Like I feel like that's where it is. It's like if you really want people to keep going, and knowing how the money constraints, it looks like Spotify is in like some deep shit right now when it comes to bringing in money. It might turn into a situation where like independent artists are really reliant on sites like Bandcamp or direct to sales from websites and shit to keep it going. Because if Spotify go down, the industry is gonna be in a bad spot until they figure out what to do next. So that's just my little 2 cents. But let's get to the list. I just realized like we 15 minutes past the hour, and I have not talked about what we need to talk about. So, like I said, it's all my opinion. Oh, and full disclosure, spoiler alert, full disclosure, whatever you want to say. The Andre album, as much as I was defending it, it's not gonna be on my list. Like it's for one, it's not music that I'm gonna listen to all the time. It's a very specific case. Like I'm not putting this in the car. I'm not listening to this like on headphones, just vibing out. Like I mean, vibing out, yeah, but like it's not an everyday listening to me, so I'm not gonna put that on the list. And I don't know enough about that kind of music to really even judge if it's good or not. So yeah, let me switch over to this one real quick. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna pull up because I said I don't know if y'all saw this on the IG page. Make sure y'all follow it, by the way. The 1430 podcast. I did post my honorable mentions. Let me display that. Yeah. So yeah. So this is the post that I made. This is like my honorable mentions. These are the ones that didn't make the list. And apparently a couple people commented. They had a couple like controversial picks on here. Yeah, so this Danny Brown album. Love this album. It being kind of a sequel to Triple X. It kind of did set like a certain expectation. It's still a really good album though, and it's really reflective. It's a lot more subdued than I would have thought. It's like really reflective, but I don't know. It wasn't as enjoyable of a listen as like other albums on here. Even another album that he was a part of that came out this year. This is the one everybody thought I was crazy for including as just an honorable mention. Larry June and The Alchemist, The Great Escape. And honestly, this one and his other album, The Night Shift, is kind of like a tie. Like I probably would have made that a tie just because it's from Larry. They both from Larry June. Enjoy both of them equally, but they also have their problems. Like Larry June is dope. Sometimes he's a little too laid back on certain tracks, and The Alchemist is dope, but sometimes the production is too laid back paired with Larry June. Like it's not a problem, like how I said with the Brent Faiyaz album, because at least like lyrically there's a little bit more going on, but sometimes it's cool. I just find myself skipping a little bit more on this album. I honestly enjoyed The Night Shift a little bit more than The Great Escape. Just a little bit, though. But I put this one just because this was the bigger release. And just going back through the track list and the features, like it's got one of the best Wiz Khalifa features I've heard in a minute. And the Big Sean verse on that track that they did together was just crazy. But still wasn't as good as the other albums that I listened to. This one was a sleeper. Like I didn't even know, because Black Milk hadn't put out an album in like close to 10 years. So when I saw that he was dropping something, and I only saw it like kind of by accident, really. I think I was checking out somebody else's music, and then I saw them posting about like Black Milk's album coming out. I think it was Black Thought or something. Who also had a good album that just didn't make my list. this year, but it was still pretty good. But he was talking about Black Milk dropping, so I went back and listened to it, and I liked it way more than I thought I was going to. You know, it was definitely like one thing I love about Black Milk in general is just his unorthodox production, and that was some of the like dopest beats that I heard from anybody's album this year. Oh, and he has talking about guest features. The song with Fonte. Fonte dropped like, and Fonte is one of my favorite rappers ever. So to say that this is probably one of my favorite verses of his ever, and he gave it to Black Milk for this album, like man. So yeah, this was definitely like this was close. This one and I think more than any other album, this Black Milk album was like right there at number 10. But I was like, it just got edged out. Georgia Smith, Flying or Falling. This is one of the ones. Right at first, I didn't even know if I was gonna put it on my list, even of honorable mentions, because the songs that I really love, like the title track, "Go Go Go," I think it's called "Flights," the song with Jay Huss. Those songs are really dope. But then there's the songs that are not necessarily bad. They just don't do anything for me. Usually they're the shorter songs. They're real. They're like, they feel like they're going nowhere though. Like I don't know. But the songs that I do like are so strong. Like I really loved it. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna include it. And then Prayers and Paranoia. It's on my honorable mentions list, but I went ahead and bought this album off of Bandcamp. I just love this album. I don't even really know what genre to put it in. I would say like maybe alternative R&B, but it kind of sounds more like rock music at times. Like I don't know, but whatever it is, like from top to bottom, I just really enjoyed this album. But it took a while for it to grow on me, but when it did, like I think every time I went back to it and listened to it, like I take my son to daycare every morning, and I always look for something to listen to that sounds good in the morning. I don't want to hear like super hard raps and shit like first thing in the morning. Like I'm up driving with him at like 6:30 in the morning. I don't want to hear that shit. So I'm looking for albums, and I came across this one on Tidal, but then he was also on Bandcamp. And man, when I tell you this album, like it grew on me, but like to just give me something different, and you're gonna see a theme, especially when I get towards the top three, 2 or 3 albums. The biggest part of why I really liked them and why they stuck out to me so much and why they were my favorites was because they were giving me something that I didn't get from anybody else all year that I really enjoyed. And this was one of those albums where that, like I said, I don't really know how to categorize it, but it was just something that was different and was done really well, and I really vibe with it. But I just put it in my honorable mentions strictly because like it took so long for it to grow on me. And a lot of the other albums on my top 10 list were just albums that I was just either in love with or just really enjoyed right off the bat. And then I ended up growing to love them. That makes sense. So this is how I'm going to do it. Like I said, I just took the tier list site and I just ranked it because I'm so used to my pre-recorded stuff and edited in, and I was just like, oh shit, I really don't know how I'm going to edit this. But, I was like, this is the best format. We're gonna see how it go. I really feel like it's going to work though. I feel like it's gonna work out. Um, yeah. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Um, let me turn off that screen. And yeah, and I forgot to like list. I forgot to list everything like on my computer. Forgot to list that. So let me pull that up real quick. I emailed it to myself because I do a lot of like in between actual work. Like sometimes I was sitting around thinking about this. Like what are my top albums? And yo, there was one of the albums I honestly almost did not even include because just strictly off of the fact that I forgot. I forgot all about it. Da 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 da. Number 10, Magic 2 by Nas and Hit Boy. Um, and now, only reason why, and it sounds crazy, this album, because Nas and Hit Boy's King's Disease 3 was my number one album last year when I ranked my top. Well, I did hip hop albums, but I just decided to do whatever genres I was feeling this year. Um, and not King's Disease was my number one album last. King's Disease 3 was my number one album last year. So it feels kind of weird that this album is at number 10. But and it's also weird that I forgot about it because King's Disease 2 and 3 came out so close together. And I felt like not King's Disease 3. Magic 2 and Magic 3 came out so close together. Like I think it was only like maybe about a 2 month time between releases. And I'm gonna be completely honest. I really loved what Hit Boy and Nas was able to do. 3 albums and in 6 albums in 3 years is like, and they're all like of quality. Like these are not just 3 albums just thrown together. Like these are quality releases in a 3-year span is phenomenal. But I will say, after King's Disease 3, I felt like they were kind of running out of gas. And I wasn't really feeling King's Disease 3. Magic 3. I keep saying King's Disease 3. That's what happens when you have 2 trilogies running simultaneously. You get kind of confused a little bit. But, Magic 2 and Magic 3, I wasn't really feeling Magic 3. And initially, I think I was a little let down by Magic 2 when I first heard it. And there was some other albums around that time that kind of had my attention a little bit more. But I went back and I listened to all these albums again to help me with my rankings. And man, this album is a lot better than I remembered it being. Like this is the album when I re-listened to it. This is the one that knocked Black Milk out of the 10 spot. Cause man, like what was on that album? Like the song with 50 Cent, like everybody was a little disappointed because 50 Cent hyped it up like, oh man, this is his comeback, verse, and people were like, oh man, this is, like people were really excited because we hadn't heard new 50 and he's been riding high off of the Power series and all of the shows that branched off of it. But like, and for his verse to only be like maybe 4 bars and he just talking shit the rest of the time, it was kind of a letdown. But once I'm kind of removed from the hype around that and just listening to it like a few months removed, it's like for the little bit that he did, I think he really complimented the track well. And really Nas is rapping his ass off of it. I really don't even care. I'm really listening for Nas at this point, and Nas is delivering all over this. Bokeem Woodbine, Irvin Magic Johnson, what this all really means, Pistols on your album cover. I mean, he did throw that like trash ass song with 21 Savage at the end. You know, it's kind of them squashing that little misunderstanding that they had. When he said that Nas was irrelevant, he threw that at the end. But other than that, like it's a pretty dope track list, like Abracadabra, Motion, Black Magic, like it's a dope ass listen all the way through. Is it a step down from King's Disease 3? Like if I had to choose between the two trilogies, I'd probably say overall I love the King's Disease trilogy more than I love the Magic trilogy. But honestly, and I'd have to go back and listen to Magic 1, but I really like this album. Like, a few months removed, at the time I think I remember liking it, but I was a little let down. Like, I'm comparing it to King's Disease 3 and everything that came before it, like even the original Magic. At the time, I don't know. I think my expectations were so high because of how much I love King's Disease 3. But when I go back and listen to it, like this shit is amazing. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that one at number 10. Let me make it a little bit smaller. What is it? Let's say 7. Yeah, 7 works. So yeah, Magic 2. I keep saying King's Disease 3. I might have to go back and listen to the album because I really love the album. But Magic 2 is number 10. Oh shit. Bruh, I really fucking hate. I really fucking hate. I don't even know if y'all seen everything. I got these shortcuts configured. And, and I was putting together OBS, everybody's, people talking about shortcuts and shit. And, it's like, okay, I'm setting this up for the first time, watching videos, talking about it. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna follow what you say. Not realizing these fucking shortcuts, like, just when I do regular shit, it's still going to, like, move my scenes up and down. So I don't even know if y'all seen that. I mean, it's really just me with the album, like, me talking while the album covers right there. So if you at least heard me, then, more power to you. But all right, so we're gonna go to the next one. So I talked about, like, during my stream with my boy P, one of the things that came up, I don't know how, I don't remember how, but like, people always talk about women rappers, always talk about the same thing. And my counter argument was how there's always a male equivalent to those women. Like when you say that women only rap about one thing, there's probably a male equivalent that's basically doing the same thing, that only raps about one, maybe a couple things and shit like that. They're not as deep and diverse, like to where you want to like shame and criticize women that rap like and their like limited subject matter. And, I was talking about women that do talk about other things and that I think are really dope to listen to. And one person's album that was not getting any talk. Like, I promise you, there's probably gonna be a lot of people who are gonna put together top 10 albums of 2023 or top 20 or whatever number it is. They're gonna put together their list and they're gonna omit this album, and it's gonna be a fucking crime because of how dope this album is. Let me go ahead and put that back so y'all can see it. Bam. Real Bitches Don't Die by Kari Fox. I'm just, it's Faux. This is really the first time I've heard her featured on songs with like Smino and Saba in the past, but I've never listened to a full project of hers. And this is the first time I listened to it. I thought the album cover was dope. That's how I pick. If it's an album I haven't heard or an artist that I haven't heard of, and I see an album pop up on Tidal or on YouTube randomly or whatever, like I will just check it out strictly off of the album cover, and like how dope or how creative it is, and the feature list. Because depending on who you featured with, and the title tracks and stuff like that, it may, who I might be missing out on some shit when I do stuff like that. But like the track list and who you are working with will tell me a lot about whether or not I'll like this album. And looking at, she got songs with Gangsta Boo. She got a song with Big Crit. Actually, that I heard that single. It's called Turning Heads. Dope as fuck. Make a Wish. It's a really dope album that is just fun. Like everything I listen to doesn't have to be super introspective. It doesn't have to be like super lyrical. Like this multifaceted storytelling or anything like that. Sometimes I just want to hear a well put together album, and motherfuckers just having fun. Like she got a video for this song called Me First, and I'm not gonna spoil it because I think going into it without like knowledge about what's about to happen in the video is more, you have a better time with it. But I just want to say, like, the video is so fun and it's so funny. Like, it's just this really dope ode to Southern rap, to Houston. Like I said, she got a song with Gangsta Boo, which is probably like, R.I.P. to Gangsta Boo. She was, that's probably like one of her last feature verses. And they worked so well together on the song called White Caprice. Like, it's just a really, and it was funny because I listened to it a few times, and I think every time, like, I'll listen to it and then I'll forget about it, and then I'll come back to it, and every time I come back to it, I'm like, wow, this shit is dope. Like, it feels like a new listen because I forget about it, and I kind of move on to maybe some other album that came out, but then I listen to this album and I go, this shit is dope. Like, you put it on at any time. Like, I don't know. I really don't have much to say about it because, like I said, it's just a really fun album, really put together, top to bottom. No songs that, make me scrunch my face up or make me want to hit the skip button. Like, it's just a dope album. And I really wanted to highlight her just because of how well put together it was. And like, yeah, I listened to it and I'm like, yo, I just enjoy this album so much. Like, I have to put this on the list. So yeah, Real Bitches Don't Die by Kari Fox is probably my number 9 album of the year. Yeah, I'm gonna try to keep it simple because sometimes you might be trying to inflate the runtime by just like talking for the sake of talking, but like, nah, it's so album number 8, Victoria Monet, Jaguar 2. And this was one of the ones I kind of like was going back and forth about. It honestly was gonna make my honorable mentions, to be honest. I really enjoyed this album. Don't get me wrong. I just didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. But when I went back and listened to all the albums that I put together, like, and compiled a list, I was like, man, this is such a dope listen, man. Like, I'm about to underrate it because the singles were so hot. I thought, oh man, this album gotta be just nuclear. But when you remove yourself from that, like I did with the Nas album, and I just listened to it, like, removed from all that hype and shit, and just listened to it, like, with kind of a fresher ear since it had been a few months. And I'm like, man, it's such a consistent, she goes for this kind of funky vibe. Like, I'm trying to think of what time period she's channeling. But, she got dope songs with Earth, Wind, and Fire. The song with Lucky Day, I think it's called Smoke. Yeah, that one's called Smoke. On My Mama, dope. Party Girls, dope. Like probably my favorite song on the whole album. Uh, Don't Ask Me for Shit. That song is dope. Like it's just a really well put together album. I think what it was is that the singles, and I think there's four singles from the album. It was Party Girls, Smoke, On My Mama. If I'm not, if I think it's those three singles, it might have been four. Let me check. Let me check. On My Mama, Party Girls, Smoke. Okay, yeah. So it was only three singles. Um, but she had songs like Cadillac, uh, Stop Asking Me for Shit. That's what it's called. Not Don't Ask Me for Shit. How Does It Make You Feel? Like, All Right. Yeah, that's the one. I think that's the one produced by Kate Renata, right? Yeah, that's the one. It's Kate Renata vibe. Like it's just such a dope listen from front to back. Like I don't know, it was I underrated it at first. I really didn't even think it was gonna make my list, but it's really a dope fucking album. Like you can't deny how dope it is, and like I know she's dominated for a couple Grammys. Like I hope she takes one home because like of the field of the categories that she's in, like she's definitely the one that I enjoy the most for the most part. So yeah, that's my number eight. What the fuck? Okay, we gotta fix that. All right, so number seven. We're gonna keep it rolling. We're gonna keep it rolling just to make sure anybody got something to say in the chat. Let me check that real quick. Um, Let me see. The chat on Twitch is still loading, so if you said something, I haven't seen it yet. So we're gonna get to it. Number seven. Okay. Yeah, this is a underrated pick. Number seven is a very underrated pick. OVO. Because I was apparently, according to a few people, especially on YouTube, I was a little hard on Drake and shit. But like when you have artists like this on your roster that's putting out the music that they're putting out, like I don't understand how you are not pulling inspiration from her. Naomi Sharon. Naomi Sharon's debut album. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I don't know how to pronounce the title of this album, and I thought I had it, but I've been drinking a little bit. I thought I had it, but I don't. I don't. Uh, but yeah, her debut album. When I heard it the first time, right? I'm gonna be honest. I was like, she just biting Sade. But then I thought about it again, and I was like, I haven't really heard too many people really accurately replicate Sade's sound. And this is probably like for a carbon, like not a carbon copy because she has her own identity on this album. I'm not to say that she's just a complete Sade clone, but when I hear this album, that's the first person I think of, and I like no bullshit. This is probably the closest to somebody replicating that sound that we're ever gonna get. For cause just and she does it well. Like I'm not saying it in like a negative way. Like it's definitely more of a compliment if that makes sense. Like it's definitely something that fits her, and she actually another album I enjoyed this year and from the OVO camp, uh, Majed Jordan, their album that came out this year, and I could tell listening to this album that she had a very big influence on their sound on that album, and she's featured on one of the songs. And like that's probably the first time I really enjoyed a Majid Jordan album. Like just hearing them by themselves is probably the first time I've enjoyed a listen of their music, like from top to bottom. And I really think it's thanks to her. I don't know how. Like I don't know if it's whether it's the producer that she's rocking with, or she's the architect of this sound. But whatever it is, like she's really dope. And when I talk about Drake and just kind of how samey his stuff is, and then I hear this album, I go, man, why are you not tapping in with her and help, like having her, if she is the architect of the sound, why are you not leaning on her more for like this new direction that you're going in, especially when he does more R&B stuff. Like I hear this album and it's literally what Honestly Nevermind could have been for Drake. Like every time I listen to this song, it's what's the song? Another Life, Definition of Love, Holding in Place, Lucid Dreams, Hills, Regardless, Time and Trust. Probably the only song I don't feel as much as probably Push with Omale, but even that song, I think it's more of a testament, because it's still a good song. I think it's more of a testament of how good the rest of the album is. And I ranked this one higher than the Victoria Monet album, just because it was definitely a pleasant surprise. Whereas like Victoria Monet kind of hit the beats that I was expecting, and really didn't go beyond that, in my personal opinion. It's still a really good and well crafted album, but it was a little bit. It's more predictable than anything. Kind of like what I was expecting from her versus this being. And she kind of had the benefit of being an artist that I haven't heard before outside of a couple songs when it was announced that she was signed to OVO. So she has that benefit of being like, I don't really know what to expect versus Victoria Monet, which I have followed her, career, and I know like kind of the sound she kind of goes for with her independent work. But still, I don't know. This one gave me something I wasn't expecting, but I really enjoyed, and that's why I put it in my number is 7 on the list. If you haven't listened to this one, because I don't really see it, just like with the Kari album, I don't really see a lot of people talking about this album. If you have not heard this album, make sure you go do that, because it is really dope. It's really dope, and it's definitely something different than what most people are giving right now, right? So let's move on. Let's keep it pushing. Now we're about to get into the section. Literally 6, 5, and 4. I was struggling with. I was really struggling with trying to figure out where these. Let me check this real quick. Okay, cool. I was like, let me make sure I hadn't changed shit. I was struggling with these songs. I mean these albums. Just because I didn't know where I wanted to rank them. But after re-listening to them over the week, I was like, all right, this is gonna be my number 6. Mick Jenkins, The Patience. Man, when I tell you this is what you're about to see in a minute, top 3 hip hop listeners this year. A spoiler, I guess, because you see where the directions I'm gonna be going in the top 3. If this one's number 6, but yeah, top 3 hip hop listens. And like the Kari album, it's not necessarily like the deepest album. It's not necessarily the most introspective or concept album or something. It's just a nigga rapping and rapping well. Like Mick Jenkins is one of the most underrated rappers of the last like decade or so. Like The Waters, uh, the Elephant Man album. What's that one? That's one album from like 2018. I really fucking loved from Mick Jenkins. Or was it 2018? I'm getting my years mixed up. Okay, yeah, The Circus. That was an EP. I fucking love that one. Pieces of a Man. I had the album cover in my head, but I couldn't remember the uh, the name of it. Like with the broken glass and him looking at himself. That shit was dope. I love that album, but I had to go back and check, and I was like, there's been a lot. There's been a few times where I've omitted his albums from my list, and that's a fucking shame because Mick Jenkins consistently has been putting out some of the best hip hop that is not being talked about. And this album felt like almost like I know he's like independent now, like he was signed to a label, but I think this is like his first project put out like 100% independent, and so I felt like this album is like a statement, kind of like this is what to kind of expect like from me going forward, but also I think this was a response to niggas who did not like, you know, in these conversations about the best rappers and the best albums and stuff like that, his stuff is constantly overlooked, and that's a fucking shame, including myself. Like I will admit that I've overlooked his stuff, not that I didn't know about it, but just I don't know, something about it. Like you get to the end of the year, like you're talking about these albums that really had this big impressions on you. For some reason, his stuff never really came to mind, even though I'll go back and listen to those albums, and I really like love those albums, and I still go back and listen to it. I went back and listened to Elephant Man earlier today actually, and it was just blown away. But this is like a more aggressive, just, you know, it's not a lot of heady it's not a lot of heady shit. It's a very simple, straightforward hip hop album of it. It's somebody just rapping and doing it well. Like he's on songs with Freddie Gibbs, like Show and Tell, and Benny the Butcher on Sitting Ducks, and is out rapping them. He's on the song with Vic Mensa from The Garden to the Table, out rapping him, going going neck and neck with Jid, who is like, you know, usually somebody that just smokes anybody he's on a song with. And he's standing toe to toe with him on Smoke Break. And then you got songs like 2004, '07, what's that song? Roy G. Bev with The Color Concept, Michelin Star. Like every song on this, except for the one with Mick Jenkins, that's the only one I would probably say is like the weakest track on there. But even that is like enjoyable to a certain point. It's just the weakest song compared to everything else. Like Pasta, Mop, Guapanese, like it's a very short album. Like it's only about 27 minutes, so it's not even 30 minutes long. But from top to bottom, it's a dope listen. The only reason why the other two rap albums ranked a little higher is that when I get to the end of this album, I want more. And that's probably a personal thing. I'm probably a little selfish in that regard. Like I hate when people, like when artists drop an album and people are immediately looking for new music after that. Like the album ain't even a year old, bro. Why are you already hitting them up, asking them for new music and shit? So, you know, I don't want to be one of those guys, but man, this album is so short, and a lot of the songs are really short. Like there's a good run of songs that are like sub 3 minutes. Let me just see. Yeah, '07 to Roy G. Bev are like, no songs like Roy G. Bev in 2004 are like 2 minutes long. The actually Pasta is only like 2.5 minutes. So like a good portion of the album is like a sub 3 minute songs. that not necessarily those songs needed to be extended unnecessarily, but man, I could have used a couple more tracks, a couple more tracks, and I know, and it's really like a really nitpicky thing, but like I said, I was struggling with these, fourth, five, and six. Those albums, I was really struggling with how to rank those, and I really just had to narrow it down by like the most minute details and shit. So yeah, well, well deserved six. Honestly, if I wanted to cheat, I'd probably rank this one, and my number five, like neck and neck. Yeah, this one is the one. This is the one that really like I was struggling with. The one that edged out Mick Jenkins is Michael, and for a few reasons. Like like where Mick Jenkins, like I said, for me to enjoy an album, it don't have to necessarily be the most intricate, you know, thought provoking concept album, like super lyrical album, which Mick Jenkins album is like lyrical. He's rapping his ass off. But it doesn't have to have like all the bells and whistles for me to like enjoy it and for me being a top album. Well, this does have the bells and whistles. This does have the storytelling, the concept, the lyricism, this like dope features, and like it's such a well put together album. It's probably like no lie, this late into his career, this is probably Killer Mike's best album from top to bottom. Even better, I probably rank this even more than Run the Jewels, more than rap music, just more than everything that came before, just because of how much you get from this album. From Down by Law all the way down to the closing track with Ty Dolla Signs. This is just an enjoyable album. Now, why is this only number five? There's certain points in the album, lyrically, I feel a little awkward. Slumber with Jagged Edge. Don't get me wrong. I understand the message, and Jagged Edge is singing their ass off. That's one of the things I loved about this album too, because there's a lot of features on here. It's a lot of bridging the gap. Where I had an issue with Busta Rhymes, like the way he reached out for his album this year, Blockbuster. The way he reached out to people like Coyle Ray and Quavo and like these younger artists, and had did these collabs with them, but it felt like it was just him taking or trying to chase the new sound and the new trends, and like trying to fit in that mold, and it comes off a little awkward. Like Killer Mike is doing songs with people like Future and Mozzie, these other artists that are of this generation, alongside with people like Fabo, which when you hear the name Fabo on a song in 2023, I wasn't expecting as well put together of a feature that it was, but man, he really showed out. Like I'm thinking like homies like on that D. What group was that nigga part of? Was it D4L? I can't remember right now, but I'm just thinking of that era that Fabo was like. I'm thinking like Tatted Up, like I'm thinking of that Fabo. So when he came on this song, like Something for the Junkies, perfectly placed, played his part well, and that's one of the things I like when I was like Busta need to bring these younger artists into his world. Killer Mike brought everybody, young and old, into his world, and he just put together such a great body of work, man. Like I said, at certain points of the album, I just feel a little awkward. You know, slumber is just a topic, and it's just how he describes certain things, which I'm not trying to tell anybody how to write their music, but how I felt listening to some of the lyrics. I won't say what they are, but there were just certain bars at the very beginning of that song with Jagged Edge, just a little weird, and then certain bars on talk that shit, talking that shit. The song with Currency and 2 Chainz, the certain bars was like I can't really rock with this, right? And I will say after the song Motherless, which Motherless is such a beautiful song, such a beautiful, well put together song. I felt like it really could have ended right there. Maybe you could have put High and Holy at the end after Motherless. Like the song with LP, I get it because you got people that like are looking for that Run the Jewels shit with LP. I don't know. It just felt like it was unnecessary by that point. Like I said, the nitpicky because at this point we're getting to albums that I really love. So to rank them, I had to get real nitpicky and shit, and that's probably part of that's. So me saying that, not like I hate the song, just felt a little unnecessary. But man, Killer Mike did his thing. Like I said with Victoria Monet, I really hope that he gets all the Grammys that he's nominated for because he's by far the best in the rap category going into the award season this year. Oh, and I can't forget to talk about the show, like Stop the World verse from Andre 3000 on Scientists and Engineers. Like Killer Mike, and most time when Andre's on a song with somebody, especially with these features that he usually do, like he's been doing since the last Outkast album, and he kind of went into exile. Usually he's obliterates whoever he's on the song with. It don't matter who it is, whether it's T.I., Rick Ross, you name it. He is probably like outshining them tenfold on a song. Where on this song, Andre killed it, world-stopping verse. Killer Mike is right there with him, and that just really shows the skill level that Killer Mike is on. And even somebody like Future, who honestly could really phone it in on a lot of, and really does phone it in on a lot of his features. He came to play on this album. Everybody stepped their game up to make sure that this album was a success and as great as it was, and it definitely shows. Like everybody from Ty Dolla $ign, 2 Chainz, Currency, Fabo, like I said, Jagged Edge, CeeLo, everybody came to play on this album, and like it's just it's a phenomenal body of work, man. And like it just feels weird putting it on my number 5 just because of how good it is. But there was one rap album that just edges this one out. Like I said, 4, 5, and 6 was a struggle to rank. And this one particular album, because Killer Mike, so the difference is Killer Mike's album, like I said, is a phenomenal body of work, well put together, like, great features that came and they stepped their game up, production, everything, right? Concept, beautiful songwriting, all that shit, right? But it's still something that I've heard before. Whereas my top 4 albums, not just this album, but all the albums going forward, are giving me something that I can't get nowhere else. Killer Mike is probably the one that executed the blueprint of what came before him better than anybody else this year, in my opinion. But these albums are the ones that broke the mold for me. Scaring the Hoes by JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown is my number 4. When I tell you this album is the most inspiring and free album that I've heard all year. Like, that alone is why I rank this album so high. Is because it is just a fun album. That's just like it's an album where these two came together. Like, just the origins of this album alone. Like, it's just funny how, on Twitter, somebody put together a list of artists that, you can't put together. You can't, like, play this around women when you're trying to impress them because, you're going to be scaring the hoes and shit, right? You can't play no JPEG Mafia, no Danny Brown, or you're going to be scaring the hoes. So they said, we're going to come together and put an album out. It's called Scaring the Hoes. JPEG Mafia's production is just otherworldly. Like, his production is already, like, top tier, and like, not enough people talk about his skills as a producer. But I felt like it was just something just crazy on this album. Just the way he uses samples, the way like the sequencing of song, like, the song structure, like, I've never heard anything like this before. And it's just kind of one of those things, as I'm working on my album, like, listening to an album like this inspires me to an nth degree, just because it's like they took a look at the rule book and said, fuck it, we're just gonna rip this up and we're just gonna do whatever we want. My favorite songs: Kingdom Heart Key, Jack Harlow. Wait a minute, what's that song called? It's called Jack Harlow Combo Meal. Like, even the song titles are ridiculous in the best possible way. Scaring the Hall, Fentanyl Tester, Shut Your Bitch Ass Up / Muddy Waters, Orange Juice Jones, Kingdom Hearts Key, God Loves You, Heaven on Earth, Jack Harlow Combo Meal, Where You Get Your Coke From. Like, probably people are going to look at this and go, you are crazy ranking this over Killer Mike and Michael. And I get it. Like I said, it was a struggle between 4, 5, and 6. But what edges this one out for me as my favorite rap album of the year is just the fact of they just did everything their way. And I really can't point to any other album outside of, their discography. I can't point to any other album that was just this different and that just did it their way. And as an added bonus, like, Kingdom Hearts Key introduced me to Red Veil, and I really like Red Veil's music. So the fact that they introduced me to an artist that I had no idea about, and I really enjoy his shit now, it's just kind of an added bonus. But I already was gonna love this album even if he wasn't on it, honestly, just because it's so different. Like, this is my go-to album when I work out, just because it's so fun, it's so energetic. Like, I'm so fixated on this album that I if I'm struggling with some weights or on the treadmill or something, I don't even, like, my mind's not even on it, just because there's so much of this album that has just got my attention. Like, I can't say enough good things about it. Like, and then they put out a bonus pack of songs that are just as crazy. And just as like out here. Like yeah. Like I knew when this album came out in like the spring and then Michael came out like a few months after that. I knew it was gonna be like these are the two albums that are gonna have me struggling to pick my favorite. But I went back, listened to them, and I was like, yeah, this is the one. This is my favorite rap album. So yeah, and people were talking about how rap was struggling this year, and just look at that. The only mainstream rap albums on here is uh, Killer Mike and Nas. And I know it's just my opinion at the end of the day, but like I don't think there's ever been a year that I did this ranking where the top three were no rap albums. I just think that's interesting. Me being a rapper and like I love music, but hip hop is obviously my number one genre of choice. So for me to like, even with the much as I love Killer Mike, Mick Jenkins, Danny Brown, and JPEG Mafia's albums, and Nas album, like it still feels weird that my top three albums are not rap albums. But like I said, these albums 1 through 4 are the ones that gave me something that I could not get from anywhere else. So this album is a personal favorite of not only me, but of my wife as well. It's Soul Presents by Q. This was I've been familiar of Q for a minute, but even with the stuff that I've heard of him previously, this was completely left field. Definitely Prince inspired, but he made it his own. Um, I honestly didn't know where to rank this. Like I said, it really helped, like listening to all of the albums I got listened to like back to back over the week because I forgot how much I love this album until like I heard it again. Like songs like Stereo Driver, Today, which is like a beautiful ballad that builds. Like these are the kind of ballads and songs that you don't really hear like that anymore. And like a lot of the artists nowadays, I just don't feel like could really execute these songs this way. But he killed this song. Incapable Heart, uh, Understand with Baby Rose, which she also had a great album this year. But like, I really loved her on this song. Like, it's really an experience. I guess that's the way to put, like, the best way to put it. It's very, like, really like an experience. And with Prince being gone, there's a lot of imitators, a lot of copycats, and like I've heard his previous work, like so he's not, and he actually put out a little EP later in the year after this album dropped that sounds nothing like this album. And I really respect an artist that can diversify their sound the way that like somebody like Q does, but also it still feels authentic to them. Like it's not just them putting on different costumes and trying to play a part every time they have a new release, or it's part of the marketing strategy. Like they're putting on this certain persona and things like that. Like, no, this is, you could tell he's a student of the game. Like he's definitely somebody that studies and then, is really a fan. And this is really an extension of who he is as an artist and as a music listener. And yeah, like it's honestly could have been my number one because this came out like real early in the year. No, it came out in May. May, June was really when things started to really take off. Like for me, because I wasn't really as interested in a lot of albums before that, but this was definitely like one of the first. that made me like stand up and pay attention in 2023. So I did, this one makes number 3 on the list. Like I said, I can't really think other than like old Prince records. Like this is definitely an updated sound, like version of Prince, but it's not a guy trying to imitate Prince. This is somebody that you could definitely tell is like this is an extension of who he is as an artist, and I really enjoy this album. All right, I'm gonna try to like speed this up a little bit because I don't want to spend too much time. I'm already over an hour with this shit. But man, I gotta talk about this album. Like when I tell you, up until I would probably say like 2 months ago. No, yeah, 2 months ago at this point, this would have definitely been my number one album. What just happened? All right, I don't know what just happened. I was holding it too long. That's what it is. So, Fountain Baby by Amare. Man, I fucking love this album. Like, this is definitely one of those, like, I just downloaded it because I was like, okay, I'm gonna download it. It came out the same day as um, Janelle Monae's album, I was really looking forward to, and that album was cool. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a bad album or anything. It just like, I had the songs that I really liked, and then everything else was just kind of there. Uh, Nothing bad, just kind of there. So I listened to this album, and it was literally this album was everything and more that I wanted from the Janelle Monae album. Not trying to compare the two. She is featured on the Janelle Monae album as well as the Boz album that just came out, and both features are really dope. But like, just what I went into Janelle Monae's album wanting, and like going like, okay, this is what it is. Just put this on at random, and like I don't even really know how to categorize this album, honestly. Like, I don't even know if I can call it a rap album. She's rapping, she's singing. There's elements of pop. There's elements of uh, rock music at certain points, Afrobeat, R&B. Like, it's a lot of an amalgamation of so much, and pretty much everything delivers. And it's such an enjoyable listen. Like, I mean, where do I even begin? Like you got Big Stepper, uh, co-star, psychopathic dance queen. Like it honestly, it's from top to bottom. It's an enjoyable listen. Honestly, like like the song. If I had to nitpick anything, right? There's a song called oh yeah, also songs like Disguise, Wasted Eyes, Reckless and Sweet, um, Aqua Marie, Loves, Ecstasy, Water from Wine, Come Home to God. All great songs. Princess Go Digital, Angels in Tibet. Like this album literally came out of nowhere for me, and I would like I said up until a couple months ago, I hadn't heard anything this creative, this diverse, this entertaining, like from top to bottom. I hadn't heard anything like it. Like with the Q album, like was kind of an unexpected surprise because like he completely switched up the sound that I thought he was gonna go for. This was something that just I hadn't heard some of the stuff that like she does on this album, like songs like Disguise, Wasted Eyes, stuff I hadn't really heard since like the early 2000s, but it was up to date and it was still like it didn't sound dated. It was super dope, super entertaining. Um, Probably the only song is like the song. It's a song called "Sex, Violence, and Suicide," and it's basically like kind of two songs together, and individually I like them, but together it does kind of make a kind of an awkward transition, in my personal opinion. Not bad, and I would definitely listen to it like on a day that like I wouldn't hit the skip button and listen to it, especially because I enjoyed the whole album so much. I could let that one play all the way through. Sometimes I just want to hear the first half, and then I just hit the skip button when the second half comes on. But like that's a minor, minuscule thing. Like I can't say enough great things about this album. And like literally up until a couple months ago, I was already like where other songs on my ranking, I was struggling with trying to figure out where to put certain songs. This was the one that was definitely like, oh, this is definitely number one. Up until the next album that I'm talking about came out. Well, I would probably call this album close to perfect. This album, and if you follow me on any of my social medias, whether it's on Threads or Facebook or whatever, whenever I get a chance to sing this album's praises since it dropped back in October, I do, because it's on the very short list. Not even bullshitting. This is on the very short list of albums that I consider flawless. There's Michael Jackson's Thriller album. Gotta really think about this. Jay-Z, The Blueprint. Kanye West, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And that's all I can think of. Oh, Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. That's all I can think of right now. It's literally the only albums I can think of. Because even some of the ones that was coming to my mind, like I immediately thought of a flaw of them. But this is a flawless album. La High by Sanford. That's my number one album of the year. It's an album. You talk about something that I like. Listening to it is something that I can't get anything. Even his past album, The Process, which was one of my favorite albums of 2017 too. Even that album, by comparison, is nothing like this. Like and I think because the world has been so dark, and the world, like I feel like I'm desensitized to so much now. Whether it's sex, violence, just you can name it. Like I really feel almost desensitized and numb to a lot of shit because of the internet, the pandemic, just the music and media that we've been consuming since children, like to the point where I'm starting to feel like I kind of want wholesome now. And well, all these other albums were like really dope listens, right? Like I really enjoyed the music. This is the one of the albums that like really touched me on a personal level. Like songs like Jonathan L. Siegel, Only, Suspended, Can't Go Back, Evidence, especially Evidence. Like those songs hit me on a personal level. Like I cried listening to Jonathan L. Siegel the first time. Like I'm not ashamed to say that, just because I felt that song such on a personal level. Like The Process, you can learn the backstory. I won't go into full detail, but he was going through a lot, and that album came out in a year where I was going through a lot, so I felt connected to it. And this album Similarly, first album since that 2017 album, and it felt like I connected to it on a personal level because of where I was at that time to where I am now. And a lot of this album I felt like a personal connection to. So it hit me in a different way. Like the last since it came out, I really have not been able to listen to anything else. This It's been my most played album. Like it's been my most played artist every month since October. And like looking at title right now, it's probably going to be like that this year, this month too. Like it's an album that I love so much, I had to buy it. I wasn't content with just streaming this album. I had to buy it. I had to have this album and support this album. Like I was talking about earlier in the stream, like I've been making more of an effort to support and buy albums because of how I felt about Spotify and the way things are moving, and I really want to support artists that are like have like that I really enjoy their music. But even before the Spotify thing, even before that, I was just like, I have to buy this album because like it's a 10 out of 10 album. It's perfect. I really can't even nitpick and find anything that I don't like about this album. Like it's and when I talk about in the past streams, I've talked about albums. I've talked about like how music today just feels so like lifeless and soulless and stuff like that. It's because I could listen to an album like this, and even if I don't know this person, uh, I don't know exactly what he's feeling, what he's thinking, what he's going through, what his personal life is, but I can listen to an album and feel so connected because of how well put together, how beautifully written, produced, performed, sequenced, like the message behind everything about it. Like you can hear it and just feel like this attachment to what is going on, and you can really understand and feel transported. Like when they talk about experiences, I I feel like I'm somewhere completely different when I like put on my headphones or I'm in the car and I just completely lock in to the album. Like when I tell you I fucking hate driving, right? There's a fun fact about me. I hate driving. I hate being, especially on the highway. I hate being in a car driving at like these high speeds in close proximity with these cars, and like people are like driving like fucking maniacs and shit. Like people switching lanes, cutting in front of people. I don't like that. This shit gives me so much anxiety. I put this album on. I forgot that this even came out. Like I remember seeing, oh, Songful got a new album coming out. I heard Spirit 2.0 and I heard Only. Love those songs, but still wasn't really checking for it. Why? I don't know. I honestly can't tell you. So completely forgot that this came out. Put it on while I had to go a couple towns over and like get some food or whatever. I don't remember, but I just remember there was an accident. Traffic was crazy. Uh, Almost hit a chair that must have fell off somebody else's, like somebody's truck or something, because it was like a wooden kitchen chair, like this go to somebody's dining room table set, just sitting in the middle of the highway, and almost hit it because I'm checking, trying to switch lanes and not paying attention, like looking behind me, not paying attention to what was in front of me at that split second, and was able to move out of the way. Even with all of that and my already, built-in anxiety to driving, I heard this album. I heard Suspended for the first time, and I was like, it just all of my anxiety and everything went away. Like it was such a like surreal experience. And then the more I listened to it, the more I connected with the lyrics, the more I connected with just the musicality of it. Like it was just everything about this album. It's 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. I'm actually, after the stream is over with, I'm going to go back and listen to this album again. Because it was to a point where, like, this came out, and for a long time, I couldn't listen to nothing else. There's probably some other shit that went under the radar. So, here's my list. We're going to go ahead and go back over it. Number 10, Nas, Magic 2. Number 9, Kari Fox, Real Bitches Don't Die. Number 8, Victoria Monet, Jaguar 2. Number 7, Naomi Sharon's debut. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. The title of it. The Patience by Mick Jenkins. Michael by Killer Mike at number 5. Number 4, Scaring the Hoes, JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown. Number 3, Soul Presents Q. Number 2, Fountain Baby by Amare. And number 1, my 10 out of 10 favorite album of 2023, Lahai by Sampha. Let me know what y'all think of my list. Let me know if there's any albums that are your favorites that I didn't talk about. Maybe I didn't listen to them. I might go back and check them out, and I can give you my thoughts. But yeah, man, as much as people was talking shit about 2023 as a year for music, especially for hip hop, I felt like there was a lot to enjoy as a music listener. Maybe not as much as last year or the year before that, but it was still a lot to enjoy in 2023. And I had a good time listening to it. But yeah, this is the last stream of 2023. Next Sunday is Christmas Eve. The Sunday after that is New Year's Eve. There's no way in hell I'm about to be streaming on either one of those days. But to be completely honest, I don't really know when I'm gonna come back. Honestly, with the holidays around the corner, it is what it is. But I don't really know when I'm gonna want to bring the show back. This has been a really dope experiment. Live streaming has always been something that I was a little. Let me go back to the main screen real quick while I talk about this. Live streaming has always been a very awkward thing for me. Like, people tell me all the time, I need to live stream. I need to, do this live. Pre-recorded stuff is cool, but you need to do lives and shit. And I was just so hesitant because I like having control over editing out the fuck ups, editing out, editing out the slip ups, the mistakes. So being like live and vulnerable and like, flaws and all for everybody to see, made me a little nervous, but, I really want to say thank you to everybody that has been watching. I want to say thank you to everybody that has been supporting. We just hit 100 subscribers on the 1430 YouTube channel. So, and I have about 6 followers on Twitch. I didn't have any, and I didn't expect to have any on Twitch. So it's a new platform for me. So I really appreciate the people that, came across me at random and decided to stick around. So yeah, like I just, but I don't know when the show's going to come back. I know it'll definitely come back, of course, but I just don't know when. So make sure you follow me on Instagram, the 1430 podcast. That's 1430. So it's the THE 1430 podcast, all one word, on Instagram or on Facebook fan page if that's what you're into. For any updates, I'll definitely be posting more on my personal Instagram at VINNIE Dangerous on Instagram and on Facebook as well, about updates for the album. But if I don't speak to you before the end of 2023, I hope you have a great Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Hope you have a great New Year's Eve, and I hope, all of your goals and stuff are met when you head into 2024, because I hope all mine do. I'm writing them down right now, just making sure we get ready for it. But until next time, till 2024, it's been your boy Vinny Dangerous. This has been 1430 Live. Much love.